Wong with news from here in Taiwan and around the world. Taiwan has condemned China for drilling in its exclusive economic zone in recent months, and it's demanding an explanation from Beijing. Alan Liu reports.
An unusual response from Taiwan's presidential office, condemning China for its recent drilling in its exclusive economic zone, also known as EEZ. It comes after a report by U.S. think tank the Jamestown Foundation, which says at least 12 oil and gas vessels and permanent structures were spotted in Taiwan's EEZ in July and August. The report says the rigs are part of Beijing's broader campaign to erode Taiwan's sovereignty. The presidential office says the actions violate international law and China should provide a clear explanation.
违反了国际法律的规范，也严重冲击国际秩序，即刻停止在我国在内区域各国经济水域从事非法设置与开采的活动。
Yet some analysts say that Beijing's actions are economically driven.
问题不单单只是在这个针对台湾或说挑战台湾的管辖权的问题哈。中国因为经济下行，它要寻求战略性资源的增储上产，有了这样的一个比较侵略性的这种经济作为。
China has also been increasing other gray zone pressure tactics, including sending Coast Guard ships around Taiwan's offshore islands. Taiwan's Coast Guard says China began regular patrols around the Kinmen Islands in February last year, with Chinese Coast Guard ships passing through Kinmen waters as many as 85 times up to August this year. It's a move Taiwan views as harassment. These maneuvers have also come amid the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit and China's military parade, prime moments for Beijing's propaganda.
金马的部分呢，当然是就是比较是属于这个管辖权的挑衅哈，就是特别是针对这个海巡执法的这个权力的挑战。
But Taiwan is not sitting idly by. A Taiwan Coast Guard delegation on Wednesday visited the Philippines to discuss growing gray zone activity from Beijing. A clear signal Taiwan is looking to strengthen partnerships as China steps up the pressure. Dolphin Chen and Alan Liu for TaiwanPlus.
Several Kuomintang heavyweights' appearance at a controversial military parade in China continues to draw criticism in Taiwan.
那我们想询问现在的国民党，现在是明确不反共了吗？真正的就是两岸一家亲了吗？那我们想强调的是说，这一次中共他们展现他们扩张的野心，他们大秀了军事的肌肉，也从来没有放弃并吞台湾的意图哦。没有想到现在国民党居然就是这样子，也不演了，直接明目张胆的去配合中共的统战。其实我们认为这样的行为其实就是叛国。
The ruling Democratic Progressive Party has criticized former KMT chair Hong Xiuzhu and another senior KMT member for attending the parade in Beijing, held to commemorate the end of World War II. The DPP says their appearance supported Beijing's distorted version of history and hurt Taiwan's interests. The KMT says it respects the members' personal decisions as long as no laws have been broken. KMT Chair Eric Zhu has joined others in condemning Beijing for claiming the Republic of China's victory as their own.
而今天，中共不断地想要篡改历史、扭曲历史，声称中共是抗战的中流砥柱，是领导抗战的政党，这完全不是事实。
The government says it is looking into whether Hong violated a ban on former officials in key positions attending the parade. It says her previous role as deputy legislative speaker gave her access to sensitive information. Wednesday's military parade in Beijing wasn't just a display of Chinese military might. Some in the West fear it could be the start of a nuclear-armed authoritarian power bloc that could shift the global balance of power. John Van Trieste reports.
An evening gala in Beijing Wednesday carries on the message of a massive military parade earlier in the day. China is a global power not to be trifled with. But it's not just China's growing might that has the world's attention. Host Xi Jinping has recently called for a new multipolar world order, a challenge to the United States. And there are signs others who share China's rivalry with the U.S. are getting on board with this vision. two of Xi's VIP guests and prominent U.S. adversaries, Russian President Vladimir Putin and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, have used the occasion to talk. Their two countries are already bound by a mutual defense treaty, and North Korean troops are helping Russia's war in Ukraine. Before leaving Beijing, the two leaders reaffirmed their growing ties.
Хочу отметить, что ваши воины сражались мужественно и героически. Никогда не забудем и тех жертв, которые понесли ваши вооруженные силы и семьи ваших военнослужащих.
아까도 말씀드렸지만 내가 당신과 러시아 인민을 위해서 할 수 있는 것이 있다면 또 해야 되는 것이 있다면 그 형제적인 그런 의무로 우리가 감당해야 될 의무로 간주하고 모든 걸 다해서 도울 용의가 있습니다.
U.S. President Donald Trump, who'd earlier accused China, Russia, and North Korea of conspiring against the United States, seems to have changed his mind about China's parade.
I thought it was a beautiful ceremony. I thought it was very, very impressive. But I understood the reason they were doing it, and they were hoping I was watching, and I was watching. My relationship with all of them is very good. We're going to find out how good it is over the next week or two.
But in the EU, the event and its undertones of a shifting global order set off alarm bells, especially with Russia's war with Ukraine raging on its doorstep.
Looking at President Xi standing alongside the leaders of Russia, Iran, North Korea in Beijing today, these aren't just anti-Western optics. This is a direct challenge to the international system built on rules. And it's not just symbolic. Russia's war in Ukraine is being sustained by Chinese support.
And in Taiwan, threatened with Chinese invasion, there's concern too. Not so much about direct Russian or North Korean intervention in a war with China, but the ways Russia and North Korea could divert much-needed aid and attention from friendly countries like the U.S. and Japan.
他们之间的团结，或许他不会实质给他援助，但是当不幸战争发生的时候，他只要把会援助我们的对手的力量牵制住，其实我们的压力就很大，我们就变成是我们要独自的面对这个对岸，就中国的这个压力。
A nuclear-armed bloc to rival the U.S. and the wider West seems like it could be a done deal. The question now is how Western powers respond to Wednesday's developments. James Lin and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
The Philippines and its allies have held joint naval drills in the South China Sea near its northern island of Luzon. The country's military was joined by the U.S., Australian, and Canadian navies. Their activities included anti-submarine warfare drills. Manila says 2 Chinese Navy warships were monitored during the drills. China criticized the exercises and responded with what it called a routine patrol in the South China Sea on Wednesday, the same day as its massive military parade in Beijing. U.S. President Donald Trump says he might have to unwind recent trade deals with other nations if the U.S. Supreme Court rules his tariffs to be illegal.
These deals are all done. I guess we'd have to unwind them. We've done deals with Japan, with South Korea. We've done deals with many countries and others to come. And if we didn't have the power, prestige, and dignity of tariffs, if we didn't have them, they would use them on us and we would have no way to fight them. We would be a third world nation. So I think it's one of the most important cases I've ever seen go before the Supreme Court.
Last week, the U.S. Court of Appeals ruled that many of Trump's reciprocal tariffs were unlawful under the emergency powers cited by the White House. Those duties remain in place until mid-October, giving the Supreme Court time to decide whether to take up the case. Tariffs have been one of Trump's most frequently used tools in trade talks. China is stepping up its trade war with the U.S., with new anti-dumping duties on some U.S.-made fiber optic cables. China's Commerce Ministry says the levies will range from 33% to more than 78% for some cables used in undersea and long-distance data transmission. It says an investigation found U.S. firms were skirting earlier trade measures. The decision comes just days after Washington tightened curbs on China's access to American chipmaking tools. From export commodity to high art, Taiwanese lacquerware has taken all kinds of forms over the years, and a few families of craft workers are still looking to see how far they can take the tradition by putting them in front of new audiences. John Van Trieste reports.
The art of lacquerware is an intense craft that demands total commitment from the artist. Even the teeniest piece like this one takes at minimum half a year to complete. It's very much a matter of watching paint dry, as dozens, if not hundreds of layers of varnish are applied and dry one by one. And then there's the painstaking sanding needed to make the piece shine. This workshop, the Lai Family Workshop, is especially renowned for the number of layers it can manage to place on a single object, sometimes in the hundreds. And they've been doing it this way for decades. It hasn't always been easy. Like other craftspeople, the Lais took some time to regain their footing after plastic took over the market and export stalled sometime around the 1960s. But they found a way to keep the lights on and pass on their skills.
90年代当中，就开始专做工艺美术、插画花杆一寡较大型的物件，较有装饰效果的物件。2000年当中，就开始专做观光工厂的形式，做艺术纪念馆。
The Lais aren't the only ones in the business focused on fine art these days. The Wong workshop dates back to the very earliest days of this craft in Taiwan, brought around a century ago by Japanese colonists. At 105 years old, patriarch Wang Jingshuang, educated at the Tokyo School of Fine Arts, is still using a brush, though mostly for paintings, rather than the everyday goods he once produced. At this studio, each layer of lacquer takes a month to dry, and a painting can have dozens of layers in some of its more textured places. Still, there's some regret in the family about the disappearance of lacquer as functional as well as fine art, and a sense that just maybe it's time for a comeback.
因为一般的生活上较无用到漆器，早期只有结婚的时才用到那个，比如说裁缝阿爸、礼阿爸啦，是用漆器的物件所以就对漆器来讲，足侪人都较陌生。漆器的推广应该就是两方面要兼顾啦。咱像日本来做一个咱的借鉴就好，日本伊就是把生活用品融入伫伊的大家人的生活中。
And maybe it could happen.
有没有看过什么是这个漆工艺？
Elementary schools like this could be the starting point. Lacquer shop owner Children Zhang doesn't just teach kids about lacquer.
7分钟先磨800号。
He shows them how to make simple lacquerware items themselves, things like chopsticks. This hands-on learning is stimulating.
好玩吗？
好玩。
觉得哪里好玩？
And Joe hopes the start of a lifelong engagement with the art form.
细汉的时阵，就培养伊这个价值，然后知影讲后摆大汉又知影讲，这个物件的天然性，这个物件的价值，为细汉开始培养，安尼后摆这个市场较有法度甲慢慢拍开。
Taiwan's lacquer artists have been honing their skills for a century, and they're confident the standards of art they've achieved have a future just as proud as their past. John Su and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
President Lai Ching-te has met with 3 winning youth baseball teams, promising to commemorate their wins in a special way.
所以为了要纪念这个难得的时刻，我要请中华邮政来制作纪念邮票跟纪念存折，邮折，大家认为怎么样？
The young players had an impressive run in August, capturing 4 world titles. Taipei's Dongyuan Elementary School team represented Taiwan in the Little League World Series, winning the country's first title since 1996. Taichung's Dongshan Junior High School baseball team won the Junior League World Series, while the country's under-15 national team was victorious in the Baseball Federation of Asia's U15 Baseball World Cup. Another team of players from around Taichung took gold at the Pony League World Series. Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. Before we go, we're heading to the northern Croatian town of Prelog for a hot air balloon festival. I'm Tiffany Wong. Take care and see you next time.